All right, so let's do these first two flaps. So graph a linear equation with a table. So I'm going to flip that open. Okay, there's a grid here, all right, and the table here. So y equals negative 2x plus 1. So I get to choose values for x. So I'm going to choose negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Again, those are just ones that I chose. Then what we're going to do, one way to do this is to do it by hand. So we could take this negative 2x plus 1 means negative 2 times the x plus 1. So I'm going to leave a little blank right there. Negative 2 times the x plus 1. Negative 2 times the x plus 1. Negative 2 times the x plus 1. And so what we're going to do is we're going to substitute this x in those blanks. So negative 1 here, 0, 1, 2. And then we can either do it in our head or by on a calculator. You could type in negative 2 times negative 1 plus 1. And we get 3. 3. Negative 2 times 0 plus 1 is 1. Negative 2 times 1 plus 1 is negative 1. Negative 2 times 2 is, and then plus 1 is negative 3. So what we can do now is this x and this y become a point, which is negative 1 comma 3. Just to remind you, points are the x value, y value. This one tells you if you're going to go left or right. This tells you if you're going to go up or down. All right, so this would be 1 to the left, 3 up. All right, this one is 0 comma 1, 1 negative 1, 2 negative 3. And then we could plot those points. Notice I have parentheses around those points. So I'm going to plot those, again, left, right, and then up, down. So left 1, up 3. 0 means we're not going to move left or right, we're going to move up 1. I'm going to move right 1, down 1. Right 2, down 3. Now you want to connect this with a nice straight line, so I have a ruler. I'll show you what you can do if you don't have a ruler in just a moment. All right. Now we're going to draw the line from one side of the grid to the other, so basically as much as you can. And you got to have those arrows. If you don't have those arrows, it's not technically a line. So make sure you have arrows at both ends. And then it's good practice to actually label that line with the equation. So y equals negative 2x plus 1. Now there's a way you can do this on your calculator and get a table. So what you could do is you could hit y equals. So y equals. We're going to, it's hard to see that, but I'm going to type in the equation, negative 2. Now don't use the multiplication sign for x. X is this button here. So whenever you want to use a variable, you got to use this button right here. It has an x, a t, something called a theta, and an n. So negative 2x plus 1. And then if you hit the second button and then the graph button, you get a table of values. And it's hard to see. Right, and then you can get your table of values that way. You can see we have some of the same ones. You can move it up and down to get even more. Okay, so there's our negative 1, 3, 0, 1, 1, negative 1, 2, negative 3. So you could also do it that way. Alright, so now we're going to graph a linear equation with y equals mx plus b. That's something called the slope-intercept form. So here we have something y equals 1/2 x minus 1. So if you know the slope-intercept form, then this number in front of the x is what's called the slope. It's how it moves left, or how the line moves left or right and up and down. In math, we typically use the letter m for slope. So in this case, the slope is 1/2. So that means, so this top number tells us if we're going to move up or down. The bottom number tells us if we're moving left or right. We call that rise over run in math. So up, down, rise, run, left, right. The second number in this, the minus 1, that's something called the y-intercept, which in math we usually use the letter b for the y-intercept, and that's negative 1. What that means is that the line, the linear equation, actually passes through the y-axis at the point 0, negative 1. And that would be a great place to start plotting this line. 0, negative 1. Okay, now starting at that point, I'm going to use the slope to get other points. I'm going to move up 1, right 2. Up 1, right 2. Now I could also go from my y-intercept down 1, left 2. And you should have a nice straight line. Now if we want to connect it, we would use a ruler, but let's say we don't have a ruler. So I'm going to grab just a scrap piece of paper here. I'm going to just kind of fold it in half and half and half and half. Because all you really need, you don't need to measure anything, you just need something that's a straight line. So I'm going to use this folded piece of paper to connect these. And again, we draw our graph basically as much as we can on the grid with arrows at either end. And it's good practice to label our lines with the equation we just drew, 1/2 x minus 1. So that's using what's called slope-intercept, to graph a linear equation.